restoring men in history. Tucker Carlson gave this phenomenal speech in Australia. We're going to do some of the clips, and then we're going to come back to some more clips in another video, which are the funny ones. But today we're going to do the serious ones, and those are hilarious. We'll do those next probably. So there's some themes he gets into: leadership, bad leadership, cities, what's happened to them, whole countries. And we're going to watch some of his clips in a minute and talk about these. What is a good leader, by the way? Get that in your mind. What do you think is a good leader? And it's really simple. We'll get to it later. And I've always contemplated and thought this way about what makes a good leader. London, he talks about how you can't even live there unless you're rich enough. Canada, if you're native born, you can't buy a house there. So we'll go into less. Katie Hopkins talks about how bad London and England are. So he talks about bad leadership. And there's worse than bad leadership, or how it's driven, right? Is it designed? Is it financed? For the globalist, is it financed? Remember Cloward Piven? They wanted to overwhelm the system. And it looks like a lot of these countries, whether they know it or not, are following the Cloward Piven overwhelm the system from that book that Cloward Piven wrote. Executing, putting leaders in place, putting DAs in place in America, and executing places to actually destroy America from within, right? Or are they just incompetent? And I'm sure it's a combination, right? You've got some incompetent leaders that are just terrible, or just some leaders that are just enriching themselves. And human nature is that you got some bad guys out there. So there's some bad guys, right? Just bad leaders that want to serve themselves instead of the people, right? Well, that's bad leadership, right? Serving yourself instead of the people would be a bad leader, right? So there's the people like that. And then there's people actually financed and paid to run for the globalists, or paid to run in England for the EU, or paid to run for whatever, I would assume. Factions that want world citizens, not British citizens or American citizens. So how do you overwhelm the system? You bring in so many people at the same time at a rapid pace that those people don't love Britain or love America. And therefore you overwhelm the system with people who don't love America, who don't know American history, who don't value it, who don't know about the Founding Fathers, the Constitution, and why it's important. So he talks about London, but think about San Francisco, LA, Chicago. They even went more left with this new guy. And we thought Lori Lightfoot was dreadful, right? New York City, dreadful, the same. So these big cities overwhelming them. So anyway, you got these big cities. Let's watch Tucker now, this clip.
Exciting countries are wildly overrated. Las Vegas is exciting. You wouldn't live there, right? There's something to be said about a country whose, main forms of excitement are Molson and sled dogs. That's not bad. And that country basically killed itself through bad leadership. They completely changed the population of the country in 10 years, completely, and made it poor. And now people can't buy houses there. The economy's in free fall. People who are born in Canada cannot buy a house, period, because there are just too many people. And I'm sure some of them are great people. And by the way, just to be completely clear, I'm utterly sympathetic to people who want to move to my country, for example. We let in 30 million people illegally in the last 4 years. That's a crime, but I'm not mad at them. I'm actually flattered by it. They want to move to my country. Of course they do, because it's the best country. That's how I feel. It's like someone saying your wife is hot. Yeah, I think so too. You can't have her, but I'm glad you appreciate it. I mean, honestly, that's how I feel. I don't begrudge any immigrant from any country wanting to move to the United States, because I love the United States above all. I am American. So it's not a question of being mad at immigrants. I'm completely sympathetic. In fact, I'm empathetic. I can't wait to get back to my country. But that doesn't mean that the movement of millions of people, mostly with low skills and no, native command of the language and no shared culture of the people who already live there, doesn't mean it's good for the country itself. It's not good, actually. It's bad. It's the most destructive thing you can do to a country. That's not racism. That's not hate. I'm not racist and I don't feel hate. I feel true compassion and empathy. But the purpose of running a government is to take care of the people who are citizens of that country. There's no other purpose. It's not to save the world or change the global climate or whatever. And it's certainly not to spend a huge percentage of your budget on refugee resettlement. It's to take care of the people who are born there. That's your job in the same way a father's job is to take care of his children, not the neighbor's kids.
Republicans could have done it under Trump. It wasn't Trump's fault. It was the Republican Congress that didn't do it, right? They had the opportunity. And they did do remain in Mexico. So they did curtail it. But according to the articles I read, Paul Ryan did not want to do certain things, build the wall and go all the way. So, but it was far better under Trump than Biden, right? But either way, these people, these men and women elected to Congress, were elected to serve their districts and serve their people. That's good leadership. What is good leadership? Serving your people, thinking about your people, being concerned about your people. That's good leadership. Do you care about your people? That's great leadership. Do you care about your people? So he does use an analogy that I used to use in LA all the time. He talks about you're going to take care as a father of your own children first, right? That's just common sense. So what does that translate to? American politicians, elected American politicians, should be what? Taking care of you first. Thinking about you first, caring about you first. That would be good leadership. They were elected to serve you. They're not above you, right? We have servant leadership in America. Unalienable rights, a constitution. We made it very clear we never wanted a king again. We're around July and Independence Day here. So remember, we never wanted a king again. We never wanted a strong centralized government again. Some of the judges and other people did. We didn't. Not the ratifiers. The ratifiers were scared, but we don't want to go too much in the Constitution and the ratification here today. But anyway, he gives that example of some kids had never been to Disneyland, and this is a great example. So his kids have health problems and all these problems going on, so he just decides to take the neighbor's kids to Disneyland because they've never been, because everybody needs to go to Disneyland, right? Great. I've used this analogy many times. You want to be secure in your own neighborhood, right? At a birthday party, and different analogies that are analogous to this. You want to, if you're a father, take care of your children first. If you're a friend, you want to take care of your close friends first, right? You want to build them up before you go out to unknown strangers. You can be kind to everybody. But what do you want to do? You want to take care of the people you love first, right? As a leader, you also want to take care of your people if you're leading them. But you want to take care of the people you love first, whether that be your children or your wife or your friends. And that's a great analogy he told. And you saw the clip, so we need to go through it. So again, we go back, but many politicians like to look overseas. Why? Because we've got so many problems here. We've got an open southern border that the uniparty wants. So they like to talk about war for many reasons: the military-industrial complex, the money that it feeds the military-industrial complex. It also gets the attention off what's the debt, $37 trillion in D.C. in a way, but it should focus on it, right? But it gets us way away from our problems, and we have many problems here. American principles. Look at Ukraine, and they always want a bad guy, right? NATO and the military-industrial complex. Putin's bad. Putin's bad. There's a clip. We'll get to that in the next video. But our debt is caused by our politicians. The deficits. The money sent to Ukraine that could go and be used instead of creating inflation. Better prices on groceries, right? Translates, inflation hurts your ability to buy groceries, right? So the more money the federal government spends and sends overseas, the more expensive goods are going to be. If you want to destroy the United States, bring in massive illegal immigration, and you will transform it. Then send them to Marxist indoctrination centers. In fact, it's as simple, right? American leaders are elected to serve you. American leaders are supposed to be for America first. It's a simple principle. But we're always talking about this country, that country, this country. Secure Ukraine's borders, but not our own. And if you're a congressman from whatever district it is, you should be looking out for the interest of your district as well, right? What can the government do to allow you to pursue happiness? They don't even talk about that. And this is a great line. He says, if you spend all your time thinking about other countries, you are not a legitimate leader for America. Remember Mitch McConnell on Ukraine, how important he considered it, but not the border. They didn't close the border. The Uniparty Republican Party didn't close the border. Didn't demand that in exchange for funds for Ukraine. Because many of the Uniparty likes open borders. Many of the Republicans like open borders. And I like his question. How is it not a leader's job to prioritize his people? It's common sense. I remember people talking about a leader or that from another country saying they're worried about their country. And I would say, and someone said Putin's for Russia. And I said, yeah, he's the Russian president. I wish American president was for America, right? We want the American president to be for what? America. So common sense is you take care of your children first. You take care of your people first. You take care of your country first. That's good leadership.
Dereliction of duty in not doing that. In other words, I have 4 children, for example, and if a couple of them were in real trouble, as people in all of our countries are, the native-born population in actual trouble, you know, one of my kids has leukemia, for example, or another one has a drug problem, and I say, you know, that's tough, I'm really sorry, but the neighbor's kids literally have never been to Disney World, ever. And that's just wrong. And so I'm going to take my retirement account and cash it out and take the neighbor's kids to Disney World. Because everyone should have a chance to go to Disney World. See ya, and I leave. What's the message I'm sending to my own children? I hate you. I'm ignoring your problems because I'm focused on the problems of people who aren't in our family. It's kind of that simple. A leader's sacred responsibility is to take care of his own people, period. Period. There is no other responsibility. That's why he's elected. That's why he's in charge. That's why you're dad. Doesn't mean you don't like the neighbor's kids or think they should go to Disney World. Everyone should go to Disney World. But the priority has to be, if you're dad, your kids, because you're their father. So if you're the prime minister of a country and you find yourself spending all of your time worrying about the populations of other countries, you are not a legitimate leader. Period. By definition, we have someone in our country who sort of said that out loud. I thought it was, whatever, leaving aside any other quality, being orange or whatever qualities you think Trump has or doesn't have, that was his core pitch in 2016, and there was sort of no arguing against it. Like, how is that wrong? How is a leader's job not to prioritize his own people? Of course it is. No one can make a rational argument against that, so they don't. They attack anybody who raises questions about it. And in the rest of those other countries, including mine, they're starting to criminalize complaining about it. In other words, this is a great thing, and if you say otherwise, we'll put you in jail. And they're planning to do that here, in case you don't know. They've absolutely done that in Canada. In the UK, they put a lot of people in prison for complaining about it. Hey, I don't think you're taking care of the people who are born here. Shut up, racist, you're going to jail. Actually, every week people go to jail for that. Imagine that. Imagine that. And imagine the mindset that allows that. If you are telling people, human beings, adult citizens, that they don't have a right to express what they believe, what are you saying? Well, what you're saying is, I don't think you're human. Because the right to say what you think pre-exists government. It's something that you're born with as a human being. It's what distinguishes you from animals and slaves. That's the core of your human autonomy, the right to say what you really believe, to express your conscience. And if you no longer possess that, you are not human anymore. You belong to someone else. You are an object. And so any leader who tells you, you don't have a right to say that, you don't have a right to criticize me or my policies, that person considers you subhuman. And that's a crime as far as I'm concerned. We shouldn't even have that. And by the way, in my country, we have an explicit law against that. It's the First Amendment to our Constitution, because ours is a revolutionary country. And so the framers of our founding documents were forced, under gunfire actually, to think this through. We're building a country from nothing. What do we want? But the founders of the other four countries, big countries in the Anglosphere, New Zealand, Great Britain, and Canada, I honestly think they never imagined a world where leaders would strip from people their most fundamental right, the right to express their conscience. I don't think they imagined that possible. They were Christians.
To a republic, and be wary of those who want to censor. Cato's letter said what? Watch out. What do you recognize? It's the tyrants that want to shut free speech down. So look and be aware of tyrants that want to shut free speech down, that want to censor you. So let's wrap it up. Purpose of running a government is to take care of you, the citizens. Good leadership is taking care of your people, caring about your people. Your citizens, in the case of America, protecting American interest, protecting and securing the American border and American principles, not allowing unconstitutional acts and denigration of the Constitution if you swore to protect it. A leader's sacred responsibility, he said, is to take care of its people, and we agree with that. Take care of your people. But we need to say we love being Americans, and we love American principles. I love American principles. I love the U.S. Constitution, and I love this country, and I want it to remain and stand. So we cannot continue to be complacent and allow bad leaders, that means judges, congressmen, state reps, all of us must be working toward the greatness of America and protecting American principles. That means you may have to write your state rep, governors, attorney generals, and that they may have to take action to defend American principles. By the way, always lawfully and what? Peacefully. We do everything lawfully and peacefully always. We just stand lawfully and peacefully for American principles, for the U.S. Constitution, and for America, the country we love. Thank you. If you like this message, please like, comment, hit the notification button, and subscribe.